Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a new video in the series Strategy for 1500 to 2000. So we will start from a position from the Sicilian accelerated dragon, which has gone quite wrong for white, as white did not prevent the very typical Sicilian push d5, and black could also play it in one go instead of going d6 and d5 as in usual dragon positions. So white took on d5, black took on d5, black has opened the center successfully, white took on c6 and played bishop d4. So black played very well till here, but at this point things got a bit tricky, and that's why I want to give this one to you as an exercise. So try to find a continuation for black, fighting for some real advantage, and try to make sure you're not missing any of your opponent's ideas. So black to move, take up to 5 minutes again, and we will discuss several possibilities. Okay, so let's start with bishop takes d4, queen takes d4, and queen a5. Trying to create a double pawn on c3. And yeah, that is quite a reasonable option. White's best is to castle and then take with the queen, as it is quite risky for black to take the a2 pawn, as white will get a lot of counterplay and the queen alone won't checkmate white. So therefore black should take here, but even though black's pawn structure is a bit better, white is more or less keeping the balance, as his king is more active than black's, and his rooks are also not so bad on the d file, and also this extra pawn, it doesn't get into motion very quickly. So if you got this one as your solution, it's quite decent, but black is not having a real advantage there. If you chose to play queen b6, this is very similar, maybe a bit worse, as white can castle and the only idea is to create a double pawn again, but again we have a very similar structure and white is not really a lot worse here, if at all. So let's have a look at what else we can do. So trying to create a double pawn with knight c3 was actually played in the game, but it's not a good move, as white has this very cool intermediate move, bishop g7, to avoid just getting a double pawn. Let's see why he would get a double pawn otherwise. First, he cannot take with the queen, as the bishop on d4 would just drop. If he would take there with the bishop, okay, there might be no double pawn, but at least black could take on d2, king takes d2, rook d8. Now, in order not to get a double pawn on c3, the king must stay, so bishop d3 is the only move. And then after bishop f5, we can at least damage the structure a little bit, and black is at least fine. However, white's bishop g7 is even better for white, as white is ready to take here with the queen in case of king g7, or after queen d2, king d2, king g7, as the game went. White can play king c3, and the king is really not weak there. It's rather good, it cannot be attacked, and it's ready to join the action in the endgame, for example, if rooks are traded. So white is a little better here, and that's why this is not recommendable for black. Also, one might consider playing knight e4 check, trying to disturb white, as white will take the knight anyway, but I think white can just take it and bring the king to c3 anyway. And even though this pawn is alone, I think white is still doing fine. So not knight c3, this is not so great. What else can we do? We need to really act fast, as it's about time. We have a lead in development. White's king is still in the center, and if we wait for too long, white will just be fine. So we have this interesting move e5, fighting for the center, hitting the bishop, which is a key defender of the c3 knight, and thus we can maybe create a double pawn. So let's have a look at this, which is actually the best move. For example, if white just retreats the bishop to some place, we can take here, and if he takes with the pawn, we are already happy because he will never cast the queen side. He has a great weakness for the rest of the game. If white takes with the queen, now we will activate our dragon bishop, also opening the e-file, which is very, very dangerous, and white cannot even castle away from all the trouble. So here black is probably just winning. Okay, let's have a look. What is happening if white is trying to target our rook, winning some time? Here, and that's probably the most difficult part of the exercise, black can either sacrifice an exchange, because the compensation after takes and queen takes and e4 is so great. We will open the center, our bishop will be really strong, probably just stronger than a rook, and the white king won't find any place where he is safe. For example, like this, and black has a mating attack. So yeah, let's see. What if white takes with a pawn here? Then we already damaged the structure. It will be even harder for the white king to hide. And also here, I would guess we just either open the center with e4, or we play bishop h6, queen to c5, and you can see the problem. White's king is really stuck, and black's moves will be quite easy. We will bring all the bishops out, and there are a lot of targets. Our queen might enter here if the white queen needs to move away, or might enter here. And yeah, black is also winning here. So is there another solution? Yes, there is. You can also play rook e8. We also grab the center, we expelled this bishop from its excellent square, and we might be ready to go some knight c3 or some e4 next. Or maybe some queen a5 even, hitting the bishop again, and it has no great spot. So the best thing white usually considers, which doesn't mean it's also good here, is knight e4, preventing queen h5, a5, preventing all kind of trades, shutting in the bishop. But here f5 is quite powerful, and this usual jump is not good because of bishop f8. And white loses material as the knight would be trapped here. Also note that he cannot exploit this pin because we have just bishop to b4, winning the queen. So the right solution is to go e5, really win the center, win time against white's pieces, and then try to reopen the long diagonal instead of trying to exploit it immediately. There is also another very similar solution, which is something like takes and e5 now, which also kind of tries to win some time and trying to open the e-file as quickly as possible with the king in the center and long castle prohibited. So black really fights for the advantage here with this aggressive play, and that's the only way to do so. So keep this in mind when you have a lead in development, your opponent's king is in the center. Often the only way to keep the advantage is to play in a forcing way, because otherwise those temporary advantages will just be gone. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, write it in the comments below. If you liked it, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Goodbye.